Hey guys, it's your gal Nicole. Welcome to the Co-working Cuppa, which is a weekly broadcast where I talk about things related to co-working and business type development. So if you have a small business or you own or want to work in a co-working space, this show's for you. So just a little brief introduction to who I am, because I sometimes forget to do that, is we have two co-working spaces right now in the Anchor Space family. We have Anchor Space Potsdam. So Anchor Space Potsdam, there's the visual there. It's where I'm sitting today, is a co-working space in Potsdam, New York. We have lots of options in terms of daily, weekly, monthly rates. We also have a conference room for non-end times. We also have a second business, which is Anchor Space Bar Harbor. Same idea, except Bar Harbor, Maine. Our space there is a little smaller. We have 4 desks. We also have a private meeting room there too. And same idea, monthly memberships, conference room rental. And the idea is that it's a well-appointed, quiet, fast internet place to work with a good cup of something. We have really good coffee from our friends at Coffee Hound, but we also have tea too, if you're more of a tea person. Every time I meet someone who drinks tea, I try to find out what their favorite tea is, and then I try to get it for Anchor Space. So we've got like 9 kinds going right now. So today's topic is that we're all doing more and more virtual events, right? It's just the reality of our lives right now. And a lot of times people are hesitant to do virtual events because they're worried that something awkward is going to happen. So what I thought I would do is talk about kind of 5 awkward things that might happen and how basically preparing a little bit of ahead of time will actually allow you to completely avoid them. By the way, the preparation ahead of time, it's not anything super high tech. It's not anything that you can't implement if you don't need to be a networking in terms of IT expert to implement any of these. So yeah, let's get into it. The previous video in the series talked about the 3 different flavors of online events. So wherever you're watching this, there is a previous episode. So you can just scroll back through the feed or just click on videos wherever you're watching this. If you're on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, just click on the videos tab and you'll see the 3 different kinds of online events. That's a good precursor to this. So the first thing I think that people worry about when they think about running online events is that if you have a presenter or you have multiple presenters, that their sound or video is going to cut off. Now, obviously, if we were in real life, we wouldn't worry about that, right? Because we'd all be in the same place and we would be able to figure out what was going on because maybe the microphone was not working or something like that. But if there's one person whose stuff isn't working, it can feel a little awkward. So now, obviously, you can't control things like weather. So right now, here on the East Coast, I'm in upstate New York. We just got kind of a big snowstorm. There's certain things that will interrupt things like internet connectivity. What you can do, though, ahead of time is have all of your presenters do 2 things, actually 3 things. Number 1, they're going to send you, if they have slides or a handout or anything that they're working off of, they're going to send it to you ahead of the event. That way, if their stuff interrupts, you as the person running the event are able to put it on the screen and otherwise run through it. Because what you're going to have them do is call in over the phone lines. So if the internet isn't working, they can still call in. So all video conferencing software has some kind of call-in number. So you're just going to send that to them and they're going to call in, and then you're going to be able to kind of run the slides if you have the copy. So you're going to have their slides or their presentation or their handout ready to go. You're going to have their cell phone number so that you can reach them. And you're going to have the call-in number for your event just ready to go, because that way, if there's an interruption, you'll be able to get that to them, and you have kind of a backup plan. It's not as ideal, obviously, as seeing someone on video, but the participants are still getting the information they expected, and the recording will still be pretty good because there'll be something visual on the screen and they'll be talking. So yeah, so that's how you can help them troubleshoot. Now, the thing that you always want to do is also have what's called a speaker orientation, because I know we all think that people are used to doing online presentations. We've all been quarantined here in the US for like a year. We've all been running virtual events, you think. But having a speaker orientation will allow you to do things like check sound, check video, have them be comfortable with whatever platform you're using. So maybe they're used to using Zoom, but they're not used to using the particular platform that you're using. Just getting all the speakers together and kind of going over expectations and testing out their individual setup will be a good thing. You can discover problems pretty quickly that way. And you want to do this before the event. So like I helped run an event and we did the speaker check like the Friday night, and then the event was running Monday morning. So I should say Friday afternoon, not evening. The second awkward thing that could potentially happen is that you'll get a message that says your internet is unstable. And I know that that's a little bit freaky to see that your internet is unstable and you're the one presenting. So let's talk a little bit about preventing that. You're going to want to buy an Ethernet cable. And you're going to want to plug it into your computer. Now you can buy, like I have one that I keep in my car. It's 125 feet. It is enough to go across the Saranac Lake Hotel's ballroom and still have room. It is long. Now you can probably get a 25-foot one and probably be okay. But if you just want to get a giant one, feel free. It's gonna run you all of $20. And you're going to plug into your internet and you're going to plug into your computer. You will have a continuous connection and your video will work way better. And I have a lot of people resist me on this, but trust me, it's going to be a good $20 to spend. Probably the best $20 you're going to spend if you're running virtual events. So that'll prevent that. The other thing you're going to want to do though, is you're going to want to know how to turn on a hotspot on your phone. So if your internet cuts out, again, we can't control that. But if you can very quickly get on an internet that's associated with your data plan, yes, it's not ideal, but at the very least, you can be reconnected in with the meeting. And if you need to, you can turn off your video. Turning off your video will save bandwidth too. So plugging in your internet, turning off your video if you need to, and running a Wi-Fi hotspot on your phone, if none of those two things work, is the way to keep your internet stable. Because as the presenter, you want to make sure that you are constantly connected, because any reset for you is going to translate to everybody else. They're going to see a pause. If you're just attending, it's a little bit less important. Awkward thing number 3 I've had happen is the presenter doesn't show up. So I know what you're thinking. And it could be there's a miscommunication with time zones. It could be that something came up. They didn't show up. So what I always recommend doing, it's a little throwback from when I was a teacher for 5 seconds, is you want some activities ready to go. So I taught high school very briefly, science. And what happens is you've got some kids who just like want to get the work done and turn it in and be done. And so what you need is you need a couple of backup activities so that as people are still finishing their work, that these kids have something to do. Because if they don't have something to do, they're going to start bugging other students. It's kind of the same thing with adults. So you want a couple of activities ready to go in case somebody doesn't show up. And they could be just little, 15-minute like icebreakery kind of things related to the content that is being presented. And it really doesn't take much effort to kind of think of these ahead of time. You might not use them, but you'll be really glad you have them if something like this happens. If you've got suddenly a 30-minute hole in your agenda, you've got things that you could run. So it could be things like, you're going to put a whiteboard on and you're going to brainstorm some stuff. It could be that you are going to run a series of polls and then put people into breakout groups to discuss the results of the polls. So it doesn't have to be like this super complicated thing. It just has to be something that's planned, because in the moment you're going to be kind of freaked out that the presenter didn't show up and you're not going to feel particularly generative in that moment. So having a couple of backup activities ready to go, even if you never use them, is always good. For events I run, I at the very least, for awkward, like let's say the speaker's running a little late or something, I even have some little questions that I can like throw in the chat. So I might take over and say, hey, while we're waiting for Marilyn to show up, I'm going to put a question in the chat. Let's think about, I want to hear your New Year's resolutions for making your organization better. You've been listening to presentations all day. You probably have some ideas of things that you're going to do, really actionable. So put them in the chat now and let's see what some of our favorites are. And then I'll look in the chat and start reading out some of them. Buy a little time. Awkward thing number 4 is that the presenter shows up and stays over time. Now, I think I'm unmuted. There we go. Now, the presenter is going over time. And my friend Robbie talks about this. somebody's going over time in real life, you do like the thing where you like kind of stand near them, and you slowly kind of get closer and closer to them until sending them that nonverbal signal that, hey, time is up, without taking out the cane and pulling it. So what you need to do, though, is you need to understand that part of your job as the person running the event is you need to be an advocate for the people who are attending the event. You are the advocate for the event attendee. So what you need to do if someone's going over, you just want to cut them off by saying thank you. Thank you, Jen. That's a really great idea. And then we're going to move on to the next speaker now. Don't worry about it coming off as rude, because you are the person, you need to keep the event running on time. And if that person went 15 minutes over, it's going to move everything 15 minutes back. And it's going to be a real pain for everybody else who's kind of planned their day around the schedule of the event. So don't be afraid to cut people off verbally. You can also mute them, but as the person who controls the meeting, but I feel like that's a little ridiculous. I would have verbally cut them off lovingly first. Thank you, so-and-so. That's a really great point. We're going to, just do it. Just embrace the fact that it's going to be more awkward if they keep going on. And the fifth and final thing that is awkward is, so if you host a free event, and you've probably noticed this if you host free events, is that people will sign up and then not show up. Or if it's a paid event, they're more likely to show up, but they're going to be really quiet. So they pay to go to the event, they're more likely to show up, but they're just sitting there. No one's chatting, no one's interacting. So let's address, like I said, these are sort of related, which is that people don't seem engaged. That's what this problem really is. So people aren't engaged, right? So people not showing up, sending reminders is really helpful. Been looking at virtual event platforms, and one of them that is coming to the top for my client sends text reminders to people who've signed up with a link. And when people click on the link, they are in the event. Now, you don't have to use software. You don't have to use event software that does this automatically. You can use a text message marketing software. Part of obviously what you need to do to collect people's information. Obviously, you're collecting their email when they register, but also collecting their cell phone number and adding them to a list and sending reminder text messages. Oh, the event's about to start. Oh, this session's about to start. Oh, there's 5 minutes left in the break. So using sort of notifications is a good way to keep people showing up. That's how my Google Calendar works. I get a little pop-up when I have a meeting coming up, and there's no reason you can't do that for an event as well. You just have to have it maybe come through via text message and, calendar reminders and that kind of thing. Now, let's say it's an event that people are physically seem to be at, they're all logged in, but their cameras are turned off, or like nobody's in chat. What you need to do is you need to create some incentive for them to participate. So rather than having them have to start the conversation, you want to have some interactive things ready to go. You want to have some poll questions, for example, and putting them on the screen and letting people vote on them. Like my friend Robbie Samuel says, you want to state change every about 7 minutes. So just think about like having things for them to interact with, rather than saying, all right, if you have a question, just put it in chat, right? Because a lot of people don't necessarily know how to start the conversation or need to be invited to start the conversation. So you might want to, give reasons for them to do that. The other thing too is you probably have other people who've co-organized the event with you, and have them interact, show that it's okay, because sometimes I think people feel a little awkward if someone's talking to leave a comment. But the thing with virtual events is they work differently than real life events. If someone was speaking, I wouldn't sit next to someone and whisper something. So I think people feel like if they type something in chat, they feel like it's the text equivalent of doing that. And when it's kind of not really. The thing is that, we can't expect, virtual events are not going to be exactly like real events. And that's okay. There are some things that work better virtually. And part of what we need to do as we look forward to seeing people in real life again is understand that our events are going to have a virtual component going forward, even if they are in person. And so getting used to understanding, the awkwardness and just sort of embracing it is something that I think is going to be really good for you. And here's the thing, your first event is not necessarily going to be perfect. No event is actually, but it's just really important to have it and not let things like the technology bog you down. So those are like those kind of fit all the awkward things I can think of that could possibly happen in a virtual event, other than someone coming on and starting to like scream at other people or something. I think knowing how to block people could also be a good thing to add to this list. So knowing how to kick people out and make sure they stay out. I haven't had anyone crash a meeting of mine. I'm not saying it's never going to happen, but I do know how to block them if that's going to happen. But it's just like, someone in real life could walk into your conference and jump on the stage and start screaming too. So, and yeah, I feel like it is less awkward digitally to deal with that than it would be in real life. So thanks so much for watching. Like I said, I'm Nicole. I've got a couple of co-working spaces. Maybe there'll be more in the future. But for now, if you know somebody else who wants to learn more about co-working or sort of co-working examples, you can just tell them to tune in here. We go live every Wednesday at 1:30 Eastern Standard Time, open to your topics. This month, we're talking about virtual events. Next week, I'm going to be talking about my virtual event setup. So I'm going to show you, I don't spend a ton of money, full disclosure. I'm not like a video production company, but I do have a setup that is under $250 that makes, I think, things can make things look nice and can make things sound nice. So for example, I'm talking into a nice microphone right now. And if I turned on my webcam microphone, you would definitely hear a difference. So I'll talk about my tech setup and why I've set it up that way in my next video next week. So you'll see that if you follow us on Facebook, if you subscribe on YouTube, you'll get a notification when that broadcast is scheduled, but it'll be at 1:30 on next Wednesday, 1:30 Eastern Standard Time, I should say, because I know people in other time zones also watch this. You can also catch it on the replay too. And if you have any topics you want me to cover, feel free to leave a comment on this video, or you can visit anchorspacepotsdam.com, or you can visit anchorspacebarharbor.com. There's a contact form right on those pages that you can contact me, and I'll definitely see it. All right, have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next Wednesday with a cup of whatever you like to drink in the afternoon. I appreciate a warm beverage myself because it's cold, you guys, and it's snowy. I hope you're safe and healthy wherever you are, and I will see you next week. Take care, and if you do host a virtual event, let me know what it is and let me know how it goes. I'd love to hear how you've used these tips or things that you've learned that other people could learn from as well. All right, take